Hey everyone, Phoebe Journey here, and welcome to episode 19. Today is the final chapter of my loan sale series. Back then, I thought my old agency, my old bank, was the ultimate nightmare. With their 25 to 55% interest rates, just hearing those numbers was enough to make me dizzy. But nope, I was wrong. Moving to this new company, this new bank, I found out there's always a higher level of hell. Let me break it down for you, so you can see the difference. At my old place, interest was 25 to 55%, calculated on the flat principal. If you borrowed $50 million over 36 months, you paid the same amount every month, and by the end, you were debt-free. You could even pay it off early within 3 months to avoid extra fees. It had flexible terms 12, 24, or 36 months. Yes, the interest was high, but at least the principal actually dropped. Customers could see they were truly paying off their debt. But at this new place, the ad sounded sweet. Ma'am, the interest is only 28 to 35% per year. It sounded lower, right? But wait, there's a twist in how you pay. Let's say you borrow $50 million. The first month, you pay $2.8 million. The next, $2.7. Then it keeps dropping, until month 35. You only pay $1.8 million. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong. Because in the final month, month 36, boom, you pay one massive lump sum, over $30 million. Yeah, you heard that right. $30 million. I was like, what? Where is the customer supposed to get that kind of money? By the final month, they'd probably collapse from shock. Now, let's talk about the work environment. At the old agency, working until 8 or 9 p.m. was the norm. Lights off. And we were still grinding. You didn't leave until you hit your KPI. KPI was per case 6 to 800,000 per successful loan. My salary was 7 to 8 million, a high, but at least you didn't get fired if you missed a goal. At this new place, we left by 7 p.m. Human right? Not really. The KPI here was based on total revenue. Let's say the target was 1.7 billion. If you hit 1,699,999,000, sorry, you failed the KPI. Even missing it by 1,000, you failed. Sounds crazy, right? But that's the law. Base salary was according to state regulations. But here's the shocker. 10% tax. If your base salary was 5 million, after tax you'd get 4.5. If you missed the KPI, that's all you had to live on. If you hit the KPI, you got 13.5 million. Sounds attractive, right? But the line between 4.5 and 13.5 was thinner than paper. Extremely fragile. I kept thinking, if you missed the KPI but still brought in 1.6 billion, who pocketed that revenue? The work policy was also different. Old company. No private phone, no chatting, no personal stuff. Just head down and work. This new company, it felt more relaxed. You could listen to music with one ear, chat, talk. It sounded like paradise, but was it? Not really. Here's the part that haunted me the most. The old company. You borrow 30, you make a file for 30. Simple. But this new company, if your credit score was good, they'd approve a limit of 50, even if you only needed 30. And here's the catch. You had to withdraw the full 50. The 20 million extra, you had to take it out and leave it there. Wait until you needed it. Does that sound reasonable? But if the customer didn't withdraw the extra 20, after a month, the data would transfer to another department. Another team would call the customer to pressure them to withdraw it, and the revenue would go to them. So, if I didn't convince the customer to withdraw the full amount, someone else would, and I'd lose the commission. So throughout that month, I had to force the customer to borrow more than they needed. It was like a credit card, but disguised as a loan contract. Once the customer agreed, everything was online. E-signing app, bank service point. It sounded modern, but try doing that with an elderly customer who can't use an app. It was a nightmare. My story? I started in December, just before the Lunar New Year. People were desperate to borrow for the holidays. I worked day and night. I had the fewest leads on the team, but I fought for every single one. Finally, I hit the 1.7 billion target. My salary was $13.5 million. I felt I earned it. But the next month, the company started firing people. I was lucky, but my team leader kept telling me, "You're so lucky, you're so favored." Wait, hold on. That was my talent, my hard work. Why did she make it sound like I only survived because of luck? It drove me crazy. But what truly drained me wasn't the people. It was my conscience. I was haunted by that 30 to 40 million lump sum in the final month. I kept imagining the customer paying off almost everything, then getting hit with that massive debt. I was scared, truly scared. I started to ask myself, am I helping the customer or am I scamming them? Then one day my team leader called me in and said, "Your data this month is the best. Why is your KPI only just enough?" I wanted to scream. It's after the holidays. People don't need loans anymore. Then she started spying on me, listening to my recorded calls, picking apart every word. One ear listening to the customer, the other listening to her insults. I was so stressed, I couldn't even remember what I had just said to the customer. My mind was a mess. I was exhausted. I realized I wasn't myself anymore. So, I quit. Not because I was weak, not because I was lazy, but because I couldn't handle two things: the pressure from people and the pressure on my conscience. And that is the end of my loan sales series. Thank you all for following me from the very first episode. If you liked this video, remember to like, subscribe, and remember the name, Phoebe Journey. See you in episode 20 to see what Phoebe does next.